Why are oil marketers still importing? Why are they not, patronizing crude for naira? Is it safe to say that it is cheaper to import fuel than buy from Nigeria?
No, I don't think that's the argument. The argument here is simple. NDPRA don't want a monopoly. So they have given license to people who can import. As long as they can bring in products, there's no big deal. And they can source their dollar. And government is not under obligation to give them dollar. There's no problem doing international business.
This is Souq Business Landscape.
The Dangote Refinery on Tuesday reduced its petrol gantry price by 100 naira, lowering the rate from 1,175 naira to 1,075 naira per liter. Now, the price adjustment followed a slump in global oil prices, with Brent crude falling to about $89 per barrel after trading above $100 previous day. Now, officials of the refinery confirmed the development, noting that diesel prices have also been reviewed downward in response to the changing dynamics in international energy markets. They added that petrol supply through coastal distribution channels will now sell for 1,050 naira per liter, reflecting a slight price differentials to account for marine transportation and logistic costs associated with moving products through coastal routes. Let's take the next story. Now, the chief executive officer of the Dangote Refinery, that's David Bird, said that the facility purchases Nigerian crude oil at international benchmark prices, despite the federal government's Crude for Naira initiative. Note that down. Now, Bird made the clarification during the media briefing in Lagos on Monday, explaining that the refinery does not receive discounted crude supply and remains fully exposed to global oil market dynamics. According to him, the pricing structure means the refinery operates under the same commercial conditions as other international refineries sourcing crude in the global market. He added that despite volatility in international oil prices and supply disruption across energy markets, the refinery remains committed to meeting Nigeria's domestic fuel demand and ensuring stable product supply to the local market. Let me start off with you. Now, what Dangote is saying is that the crude for naira is basically given to him at international price, no discounting. So we were now beginning to understand when he increased the price. We thought that, Dangote is being wicked. It's not actually being wicked. They have come out to explain what is actually going on. What they're getting is what every other international person is getting. So they have to adjust everything. So if war and any other tension spikes, it affects them. It affects fuel price. What do you think?
One of the things is that when Dangote Refinery was coming to the fore, one of the expectations of so many Nigerians is, we're going to see fuel at a reduced price. But with these updates coming from Dangote Refinery and with the fluctuations that we've been seeing owing to the global crisis ongoing, is it now safe to say, can Nigerians realistically expect cheaper fuel if Dangote still buys his crude from global markets? That's the big question that we have on our lips this morning. And I would like for Doctor to take that up with us. With this update from Dangote Refinery, we've seen that the gantry price has dropped by 100 naira. And this is coming just after the US President, Donald Trump, also mentioned that the war is over. And after that, we saw global oil prices drop. And then yesterday, 100 naira from the Dangote gantry price also dropped. Can Nigerians realistically expect cheaper price if Dangote still gets his crude from that?
Well, I think even the initial raise of the price was not satisfactory at all by me. If I look at the way it is, I saw it as people taking advantage of the situation where we find ourselves. Where at the moment there is only one refinery, and that's a near monopoly, as it were. We can't have a situation where the price of oil in the international market is increasing by 25% and the local refined price had to go by 45% increase. That is unacceptable. And I think the regulators need to pay attention to some of all these things. So that if there are reasons, we understand that the market forces the one determining what price should be. But we must ensure that those who have the authority to regulate these things ensure that monopolists or operators in those sectors do not rip off Nigerians just because we have to speculate whether price is going to further increase or not. I think that we should be proportionate in terms of how prices move. So if it is moving as crude, which is a major determinant of the petrol, therefore the same percentage of increase can apply, and that makes a lot of sense. But if you now have to double the increase just to justify whatever that it is, really do not make sense. I was listening to the CEO of Dangote Refinery making argument before the press the other day saying, they are paying to 47 agencies. And that payment didn't start yesterday. It has always been there, even while they sold at cheaper prices. So what changed is just the price of crude. And if it is the price of crude that is changing, the rate of which we have to increase the price of the pump should be commensurate with the same rate that the price is changing. That will make a lot of economic sense to both citizens and the government. But we do hope that other players come on stream because when you have monopoly, of course, you are at the mercy of the person selling to you. But when we have competitions, and there are a lot of people playing in that sector, I think in the long run, the market forces will be stable enough to determine the right price for the citizens of this country.
Right, Doctor. So I would like to, pick out something. It says, despite government plans to supply crude to local refiners under a crude for Naira arrangement, the refinery says it still purchases crude at global benchmark prices. So some people out there are still even trying to understand that phrase, crude for Naira. So in your perspective, can you break that down to us as a common man wants to understand, okay, what does this crude for Naira translate to and how effective has it even been, if it has been effective at all?
I think it has quite been effective. Crude for Naira, what it means is that crude is an international commodity. And so it is sold at the internationally acceptable currency, which is the dollar. And what the situation has been is that if you are selling and retailing petrol in Nigeria in Naira, and then, of course, you have to import crude or buy crude with dollar, you have to be looking for dollar to buy, which, of course, was putting pressure on the exchange rate, where people who were importing and those who are also buying crude will be looking for excess dollar. And therefore, you see the black market was the greatest beneficiary because you didn't have so much of export that is bringing in dollar for the CBN or government CBN to sell to commercial bank, and then of course those who are doing international business. So what the crude for Naira did was to ensure that rather than pay these crude with dollar, you have to pay with Naira. In which case you are not going to be sourcing Naira because we have enough of Naira that you can actually use to settle the government. And that was to just bring some relief so that when there is scarcity of dollar, it will not affect the ability of the importers to bring in products or crude for refinement. So that is what exactly it was. And we have seen that in the last 18 months, the dollar to Naira rate has been fairly stable against the volatility that was seen prior that period. So to a very large extent, we can say that the policy was a success and it's something that government can continue to encourage. Since, of course, we trade in Naira in Nigeria, we don't need to be buying the crude in a dollar, which, of course, we have to put pressure on us to be going to source for dollar elsewhere. That is what it is, and that's what government is doing. But does not mean that government is selling crude to Dangote cheaper than the international market price. So it's buying at international market price, but convertible rate in Naira.
All right, so in response to your answer here now, could we say that it's cheaper to buy from international market than buy from Nigeria, because if we are all operating at international price, note that the MD also said that they're also paying for international insurance rates, they're also paying for international freight rates. So all these compounds why the price went up. So, and also, why are oil marketers still importing? Why are they not patronizing crude for Naira? Is it safe to say that it is cheaper to import fuel than buy from Nigeria?
No, I don't think that's the argument. The argument here is simple. NDPRA don't want a monopoly. So they have given license to people who can import. As long as they can bring in products, there's no big deal. And they can source their dollar. And government is not under obligation to give them dollar. There's no problem. Yeah, but what the crude for Naira has done is that for a Dangote who is processing crude in Nigeria and he wants to buy Nigerian crude, he does not need to be looking for dollar because crude oil is an international product. It's only sold in dollars. But Nigeria has entered into agreement and said, you don't need to give us dollar. You can pay us in Naira, which of course you are selling at the pump price, which is at the rated end. So you earn Naira, then give us Naira, but at the official exchange rate to the dollar. So it does not make crude cheaper for Dangote. It does not make crude cheaper for Dangote. That is why the CEO is trying to explain to Nigerians that everything that is involved in the sale of or the importation of crude is the same process. You still will have to pay insurance. You will still have to pay for vessel because you don't have crude in Lagos. You have to bring it either from Port Harcourt and it's across the international water. So all the rates and charges are applicable. It's not taken away because there's no pipe that is coming from Warri or Port Harcourt that is entering into Dangote to say, okay, there is no logistics or haulage that is involved. So all those pricing is there. Nigeria is not selling crude cheaper to Dangote than they will sell elsewhere. But what only changed is the fact now that rather than Dangote giving Nigerians dollar for the crude, Dangote cannot pay Nigeria in Naira since it's already retailing in Naira.
Right. So just a very quick one. So with all of this, at this point, do you think the government should consider preferential pricing for domestic refineries?
Yeah, but because as a member of OPEC, you can't do that. The price of petrol is determined at the international level, not at local level. Otherwise, you will be breaking the agreement and protocols that you sign with OPEC. So that is what it is. So if crude is an international commodity, it will be sold at the rate, competitive rate is done internationally. Otherwise, you will be breaking the international agreement that you have with some certain body like OPEC.
All right, so these 100 Naira differentials that Dangote has given to Nigerians, how would it reflect on pump price at petrol station?
Well, I hope that those who are also retailing will adjust their pump price. As at this morning, we have not seen any adjustment on the pump price because driving to work this morning, people are still selling at what they were selling yesterday. And the number of filling stations are still holding their petrol, not wanting to sell. People are praying and trusting God that the situation escalates. But I think America is doing everything within their power to ensure that the Hamon route for the movement of crude is not affected by this crisis that is they're having with the Iranians. So as long as that is done, and then of course there's free flow of movement of vessels across the waters, then of course the price can remain what it used to be. Because don't forget that this price is not just affecting us also, it's affecting everybody in the world. I don't know whether it's true. I saw something on X yesterday of a lady who was crying in America that he was buying a liter of petrol at $100, which of course was on the rooftop. So it tells you how people are feeling the pain. And that's why all nations are running around the clock to see how this crisis ends so that price can be stable. But you know, like they say in Nigeria, things go up to come down become a problem, and people will be having all manners of conversation. Oh, we need to be able to say what we have taken, even when they didn't buy anything.
Yeah.
But then, of course, that now, of course, is to appeal to the moralities of those who are playing in the downstream sector, the retailers, to be able to also be magnanimous enough to remove the 100 naira that is on top of the new price, so that at least the people who uses these petroleum products can give some sigh of relief, especially for workers who have to now pay almost double the price of transportation. So it's not just for the retailing filling station, it's also for commuters to also feel the impact by transporters who will also have to reduce the fare that they have jacked up overnight as a result of the increase in the pump price of petroleum.
All right, one quick last question. You mentioned something, hoarding. How can we tackle fuel hoarding? Because whenever we have petrol hikes, retailers, they close down their stations and they sell at certain times of the night. And they add, for those who are buying in jerrycans, they add 100 naira or 200 naira. And when they close, just beside them, you see the black market operating in full capacity. What can be done? How can the DPL step in? How can the government step in? What regulations, what mechanisms can be put in place to stop fuel hoarding?
Well, I don't know what we're going to do to that. You have a lot of Shylock business people who always look for opportunity and take advantage of people wherever opportunity presents itself. And that is what you're seeing there. What government can do, we cannot tell. And if people lock up their filling station, they tell you they don't have petrol. Except that government agency come and examine the tank, whether petrol are there or not. Of course, it will be there. What we see here is that they open in the middle of the night and sell to people in keg and then close in the daytime. That kind of nocturnal business is what you see. That's why they call it black market. It's not done in the full glare of the light. You see, in time past, you see government moving from filling station to filling station. But that kind of manpower that you have to deploy to enforce that people do what is right, it really is not necessary. And I think that's why it's always in my heart to speak to the conscience of an average Nigerian that we should do things rightly. We don't need to take the pound of flesh from our neighbor just because we want to make more money. Taking those advantages of people is not right. We can only continue to appeal to the morality of our people so that they can do what is right. Definitely, you know that people are willing to exploit situation once they have the opportunity. But that's not human. If we can be human enough, we'll be able to do things rightly. And I think that's where conscience comes in. If we have a lot of people with good conscience, they will ensure that there are no hoardings and they sell to people. And if there are no petroleum products to buy, then of course we know that there are none. But for somebody to be hoarding, hoping that things can get worse so that they can make more money, I don't think that's humanity.